I don't know what you think of when you think of Psalm 23. The first thing that comes into my mind is the hymn, "The Lord is my shepherd," but not so much singing the hymn as watching it over the title cards of the Vicar of Dibley. Maybe not something I should be admitting to you right now, but this sermon has involved extensive research into Psalm 23 by watching all clips of the Vicar of Dibley on YouTube. Very important research, that one. But whatever you remember, I'd be surprised if it's too far away from some of the imagery that's used in Psalm 23, some of the pictures and the feelings that that psalm conjures up. It's a really well known psalm, and some of these images are well known as well. We're going to think about some of these images this morning and think a bit about what they mean. First of all, a bit of a health warning. Some of these images involve outside spaces, some of them involve close proximity to other people. So you've been warned that you know what to expect. The first image is one that's used to wear the image of green pastures and still waters. The psalmist says, "He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul." It's a picture of absolute peace, of stillness and tranquility, of shade on a hot day, of warmth with the sun on our face, the gentle sound of a stream flowing. Sounds pretty nice, doesn't it? Although I guess these days the better idea of this image might be snuggling up on your favourite armchair at home, or sitting in the garden, or just having a quiet moment with a gin and tonic in your hand. This is the kind of peace that this psalm is talking about. Peace when our worries and our anxieties seem as light as a feather. This is the kind of peace that the psalm says that God leads us to. Although it does sound a little ominous at the same time, I suppose, all this business of "he makes me lie down in green pastures." If you're anything like me, you don't like being told what to do, even if it's something good. While all of us have been told to stay at home a lot at the moment over the last few weeks, it doesn't necessarily mean that we feel at peace. Many of us have been busying ourselves with this or that. Others have been doing very little, but almost overwhelmed with worry and anxiety for others. Sometimes we just need someone to tell us to stop. Sometimes we need someone to help us find peace. How often do we need someone to tell us, to help us, to enable us, to give us the peace that we need in order to rest and settle our weary hearts? Sometimes we need someone to help us lie down in a green pasture, to tell us to sit down in our favourite armchair. Sometimes we need permission to have 10 minutes with a cup of tea and a biscuit. Sometimes we need someone to tell us that nothing needs to be done today. Sometimes we need someone to hear that we can give all our worries and our anxieties to. Someone that will help us. Not that will cause we stop worrying. Not that we can stop being anxious. But someone who we can give some of that responsibility. The responsibility we feel for others. Someone who we can give that responsibility to. And that's what God offers us. If this is you today, you could really do with walking by some still waters. Here is permission. Here is permission to stop. Here is permission to rest right here in this psalm from a God who says, "Give me your worries and your anxieties, and I will bear them with you." The second picture I want to think about is a stark image, the stark image of the darkest valley, or sometimes as it's translated, the valley of the shadow of death. Sometimes when we feel loss and pain, it can really lie heavily over us. It can feel almost overwhelming. A good equivalent perhaps might be the idea of maybe a dark tunnel where you feel hemmed in on every side, where there's light at the end perhaps, but it's light which is dim and in the distance. This is the kind of idea that this psalm is talking about. I imagine most of us at some time have felt something like this. What hope can this psalm offer us at those times? It says, "Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I fear no evil. For you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me." Hope is found in the comfort of the shepherd's rod and staff. His rod, basically a big stick for beating away animals that would prey on the sheep, and the staff, the shepherd's crook, used for pulling the sheep out of danger and back onto the right path. Even though we may walk in a dark place, God's rod and staff will keep us safe. Not make life easy, but to keep us away from those dangers which threaten to overwhelm us. This is not the comfort of an easy journey, nor is it even the hope that there's light at the end of the tunnel. Rather, it's the comfort and the hope that God will keep us going. That even when the going is tough, when it's difficult, when it's painful, He keeps us walking, step by step, till those steps become little by little easier to bear. The third picture is an image at the end of the journey. It's the image of the great feast. You prepare a table for me in front of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup, it overflows. Feast is not just a meal where the best food is served, but it's a meal where our plates are piled high, our glasses are full to the brim. Think of the best Christmas dinner that you've ever had without the stress of cooking it, of course. But feasts are, of course, only as good as those whom we share them with. The feast that the psalm is talking about is the great feast in the kingdom of God. At the end of days, when there is new life, when the tears of this world are wiped away. It's a feast where we are sat with those whom we love, where the world has been set right, when the poor and the dispossessed have been lifted high, when there is no longer pain or regret, but only laughter and joy. I don't know if this image seems far off at the moment. I think we get glimpses of it now, what it's like now. I spoke on Monday, Thursday, if you heard that reflection, about how communion was one such glimpse of that great feast that we get to share and be a part of now, but it's made fully real in the future. But we can see glimpses all over the place as well. Any time when the kingdom of God is present in our community and in our lives. So although we're speaking of a day that's yet to come, which might be far off, we're also talking about those moments of our lives and our church that happen all the time. At the moment, we cannot meet together, we cannot share communion. And so it's all the more important that we remember those moments when the kingdom of God seems so close that we could almost touch it. Those times that we've shared with others in our church, in our family, in our lives. Those times when God has felt really close to us. Those times when we've seen something of God's good and just and merciful future in the world around us. Why not spend a bit of time thinking about those, remembering them? It will be time well spent, I promise you. And the final image I want to talk about today is one that we've already mentioned, in fact. It's the image of the Good Shepherd himself. It's an image picked up by Jesus. And if you were to read the gospel reading set for today, you'd read that Jesus talks about how the sheep know and recognize his voice. For Jesus is the shepherd. He is the one who helps us find peace. He is the one who takes our burdens. He is the one who keeps us safe in dark and difficult places. He is the one who makes the kingdom of God a little more real to us every day. And one day, we'll be at the head of the table in that great feast. And we recognize his voice. We know this Jesus. He is one who is close to us. He is our brother and our friend and our king. We can trust him. For he is the Good Shepherd. Amen. I'm going to pray now, and you'd like to join in with me. Risen Christ, faithful shepherd of your Father's sheep, teach us to hear your voice and to follow your command, that all your people may be gathered into one flock, to the glory of God the Father. Amen.